Fame is like an intense flame. It shines, warms, and draws the eyes of the entire world. But when the fire goes out, what's left? Today, we'll look back at 25 great actors who once lived at the peak of fame, who earned fortunes, recognition, and the love of millions, but who, over time, faced hardships that pushed them away from Hollywood's bright lights. Men and women who defined eras, who captivated generations, yet ended up forgotten by the very industry that once adored them. From Bela Lugosi, the eternal Dracula, to Judy Garland, the sweet Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, these stories remind us that glory is fleeting, and that the line between success and ruin can be more fragile than we imagine. Starting with David Carradine. Famous for series like Kung Fu and movies like Kill Bill, Carradine had a career filled with highs and lows. Despite his talent, he struggled with alcohol, debt, and personal troubles. In his later years, he lived off small roles and nostalgic interviews. In 2009, he was found dead in a hotel in Thailand, far from the spotlight, with an empty bank account. Number 24. Burt Reynolds. He was one of the biggest icons of American cinema in the 70s and 80s. Born in 1936, he started as a football player before an injury led him to the stage and later to the screen. He became a superstar in films like Deliverance, Smokey and the Bandit, and The Longest Yard, blending charm, humor, and laid-back masculinity. His famous mustache became his trademark. Reynolds also experienced his share of ups and downs. He faced financial struggles, turned down roles that became legendary, and fought to stay relevant. He passed away in 2018 at 82 from heart complications. Mickey Rooney. During Hollywood's golden age, Mickey Rooney was the highest paid actor in the world. But after decades of fame, he watched his fortune vanish amid 8 marriages, poor investments, and financial abuse by family members. In his final years, he sued his own stepson for financial exploitation and mistreatment. He died in 2014 with less than $20,000 to his name. Even broke, he kept working until the end, appearing in films like Night at the Museum. Number 22. Norma Shearer. One of the most powerful actresses of the 1930s and an Oscar winner, lost most of her fortune through bad investments and extravagant spending. In her later years, she lived quietly, far from the glamour that had crowned her the Queen of MGM. She passed away in 1983, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable films and the title of one of the most influential women in American cinema. George Reeves. The first Superman on American television was a true national idol. In the 1950s, George Reeves inspired children and adults with his charisma and heroism on screen. But the success of the character became a heavy burden. Typecast as the Man of Steel, Reeves found it hard to get new roles and saw his career fade away. He faced enormous pressure and financial trouble. He died in 1959 under mysterious circumstances. Still, he'll always be remembered as the first Superman on TV, an essential figure in American pop culture. Richard Burton. With his unmistakable voice and immense talent, Richard Burton was one of the most respected British actors of all time. Married twice to Elizabeth Taylor, he lived a legendary romance that fascinated the world and came at a high price. The couple earned fortunes but spent it all on luxury, travel, and indulgence. In his final years, Burton preferred a quiet life, staying away from the major studios. He passed away in 1984, leaving a legacy of unforgettable performances and a life filled with passion, brilliance, and intensity. His story remains one of Hollywood's most fascinating. Number 19. Margot Kidder. The eternal Lois Lane from Superman captured hearts alongside Christopher Reeve, becoming one of the most beloved actresses of the 70s and 80s. After her success, she faced difficult times and personal struggles that affected her stability. Over time, she stepped away from big studios and lived a simple life in her home in Montana. Even away from the cameras, she continued attending fan events and conventions. She passed away in 2018, leaving behind a legacy of courage, charm, and talent that forever marked the Superman universe and the hearts of her fans. Oh, and if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe here to Top Celebrities. Thanks so much. Continuing now with number 18, Errol Flynn. The dashing adventurer from films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood was one of Hollywood's great icons. Errol Flynn lived life to the fullest, surrounded by parties, travel, and luxury. But a life of excess eventually took its toll. Over time, his fortune dwindled, and he faced tax issues and smaller roles. Even so, he kept his elegance and charm until the very end. He died at 50, leaving behind a legendary filmography and the image of a man who lived Hollywood glamour with intensity and passion. Number 17. Lana Turner. The most glamorous woman in 1940s, Hollywood also lived through dark times. A true icon of beauty and sensuality, Lana Turner's life was surrounded by scandals and turbulent love affairs. She had 7 marriages and a career marked by tragedy, including the court case where her daughter killed Turner's abusive boyfriend. All of this hurt her image and her finances. Though she earned millions in the 1940s, she lost most of it through divorces, taxes, and personal spending. In her later years, she lived quietly in Los Angeles. She passed away in 1995 from cancer, far from the spotlight, but remembered as one of Hollywood's divine goddesses. Lou Pearlman. Do you remember him? Lou Pearlman became famous as the music mogul who created Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. For years, he lived surrounded by success and luxury, until scandals and fraud charges destroyed it all. After that, he lost nearly everything and spent his final years away from the music business. He died in 2016, leaving behind a story full of highs and lows, from building pop empires to one of the most infamous downfalls in show business. Number 15. Corey Haim. One of the most recognizable teen idols of the 1980s, Corey Haim won fans in The Lost Boys and License to Drive. Charming and talented, he became a symbol of a generation. But early fame brought heavy pressure, and over time, he drifted away from major productions. He tried comebacks through reality shows and nostalgic fan events, always surrounded by love from his followers. He passed away in 2010, at just 38. Bobby Driscoll. He was one of Disney's first big child stars. He captivated audiences in Song of the South and voiced the beloved Peter Pan. But as he grew older, Hollywood stopped calling. Without opportunities, he faced hard times and faded from the screen. He lived quietly, far from the fame he once knew. He died in 1968, at only 31. Today, Bobby is remembered as a gifted child actor and as a symbol of how harsh the industry can be on young performers. Number 13. Veronica Lake. One of the most iconic faces of the 1940s, a symbol of elegance and allure. With her unmistakable blonde hair and mysterious gaze, Veronica Lake embodied the perfect femme fatale of her time, starring in hits like The Blue Dahlia and Sullivan's Travels, but her difficult temperament and alcoholism destroyed her career. After divorces and losing contracts, she worked as a waitress in New York. For years, few realized that humble woman had once been a Hollywood legend. She died in 1973 of hepatitis, alone, and with only about $1,400 to her name. This actor you see now is John Barrymore. He was one of the greatest actors of his generation and patriarch of a family of screen legends. Known as the Great Profile, he was admired for his elegance and artistry on both stage and screen. For decades, he lived surrounded by prestige and wealth, but later faced instability and financial decline. Even so, he continued performing until the end, devoted to theater and film. He died in 1942, but his legacy lives on, inspiring future generations, including his granddaughter, Drew Barrymore, a true giant of American performing arts. Peter O'Toole, the eternal Lawrence of Arabia, was one of Britain's greatest film legends. With 8 Oscar nominations and a magnetic presence, Peter O'Toole captivated audiences with his charisma and passion. Behind the scenes, however, he battled financial and health issues for years. Even through hard times, he never stopped working and earned deep respect from his peers. He passed away in 2013 at 81, devoting his life entirely to his art. His journey is remembered as that of an artist who lived for cinema and died loving the stage. Number 10. Buster Keaton. Known as the man who never smiled, Buster Keaton was a silent film genius and one of the fathers of modern comedy. He revolutionized physical humor with his technical mastery and creativity. But with the arrival of sound and the Great Depression, he lost most of his wealth. He worked in small projects and even uncredited roles just to survive. In the 1950s, he was rediscovered by a new generation of filmmakers and finally received the recognition he deserved. He died in 1966, but his influence continues to inspire comedians to this day. Another actor who lost everything and died broke was Dennis Hopper. A major figure of American counterculture, Hopper was an actor, director, and visual artist. He shined in classics like Easy Rider and Apocalypse Now. Talented yet troubled, he experienced both triumphs and turmoil. For years, he faced financial hardship and had to rebuild his career from scratch. In the 2000s, he made a successful comeback and worked passionately until the end. He passed away in 2010, at 74, after a life defined by art, rebellion, and creative freedom. Hopper remains an enduring icon of cinematic defiance. Number 8. Tony Curtis. Star of Some Like It Hot and Spartacus, Tony Curtis was one of the most admired leading men of the 50s and 60s. He lived at the height of Hollywood glamour, famous marriages, luxury, travel, and fame. Over time, he faced financial ups and downs and stepped away from the fast pace of major productions. Still, he remained loved by fans and respected by critics. He passed away in 2010, at 85, leaving behind more than 100 films and a lasting legacy of talent, charm, and resilience. Jean Seberg. She was one of the most iconic figures in both European and American cinema. She became world famous for her role in Breathless, a 1960 masterpiece of the French New Wave. Despite her success, her life was filled with pressure and controversy. Jean went through emotional and financial struggles and eventually withdrew from public life. She died in 1979 in Paris at 40. Today, she's remembered as a symbol of talent, beauty, and sensitivity. An artist who defined a generation. Number 6. Susan Cabot. She was one of Universal's most promising actresses in the 1950s. Her beauty and screen presence stood out in adventure and suspense films. But over time, roles became scarce, and she drifted away from Hollywood. She lived privately, facing personal and financial struggles. Even away from the spotlight, she was respected for her talent and dedication. She died in 1986, almost forgotten by the general public, but fondly remembered by fans of classic cinema. Number 5. Peg Entwistle. Her story is one of Hollywood's saddest. A young British actress dreaming of fame in the 1930s, she performed on Broadway and believed she had a bright future ahead. But opportunities never came. Losing hope, she walked away from her career. Desperate and broke, she climbed the famous Hollywoodland sign and ended her life there. Her body was found days later. She died in 1932, very young, and her story became one of Hollywood's most haunting legends. Gary Coleman. He captured hearts as the lovable Arnold Jackson in Different Strokes. At just 10 years old, he was an international star with wealth and fame. But as he grew up, he faced lawsuits and mismanaged earnings. Over time, he lost his TV stardom and survived through guest appearances and fan events. Despite it all, he never lost his sense of humor or the love of the audience. He passed away in 2010, at 42, remembered as one of the most talented and beloved child actors in television history. Number 3. Dana Plato. Like Gary Coleman, Dana Plato also shined in Different Strokes. But after being fired from the show, she fell into addiction, lost custody of her son, and went bankrupt. She tried to reinvent herself in adult films and small roles, but never recovered. In 1991, she was arrested for robbing a video store. In her final years, she made radio appearances just to pay the bills. Dana Plato passed away in 1999 at 34 from an overdose. One day, after saying in an interview that she was finally at peace. Judy Garland. The eternal Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz remains one of the greatest icons of all time. From childhood, Judy Garland showed unmatched talent. She enchanted the world with her voice and presence, but endured exhausting schedules and relentless pressure from the industry. In the 1960s, she faced financial and health problems that left her increasingly isolated. In 1969, at 47, she died in London from an overdose after a long battle with depression and addiction. Despite her fame and extraordinary talent, her tragic end shows how fame, poor management, and personal demons can destroy even the brightest stars. Bela Lugosi. The eternal Count Dracula from the 1931 film was one of horror's most iconic figures. Bela Lugosi, a Hungarian-American actor, achieved great fame, but soon became typecast as the vampire villain and struggled to find new roles. He suffered from chronic sciatica, became dependent on medication, and by the late 1940s was reduced to low-budget films. He died in 1956 from a heart attack at 73, nearly penniless, with about $1,900 in the bank and $1,000 in property. He was buried wearing his famous Dracula cape, an eternal symbol of his art and devotion to cinema. These stories reveal the darker side of fame, a quiet, heartbreaking side where the spotlight fades but the memories live on. Did you enjoy hearing these stories? Do you remember anyone else who should have been in this video? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I've left another great video for you right here in the cards. Just click it. It's worth watching. And don't forget to drink plenty of water, okay? For more videos like this, subscribe to Top Celebrities and turn on the notification bell. Thanks again, and see you next time.